Hey everybody, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Um, Made some phone calls today, talked to a few of you. Sounds like everything's going pretty good so far. We want to make sure that you get a grade for this thing. And most of what I'm going to do is focus on your participation. So if you watch this, make sure you let me know that you watched it. Leave a comment, ask a question, put some thought into it. I'm going to start having actual assignments where you have to answer questions and things like that to some degree. I'm not going to get too carried away. This fourth term is mostly review. It's built around the state testing, which we're not having. So typically, when you follow the district curriculum, there's not a lot of new material introduced during the fourth term. It's review of what we've covered so far this year, and it's designed to help you be ready for the state test. So we're not having a state test, but I still want to review. I still want to tie it all together and show examples of some of the things we're talking about. Now, we've talked throughout the year about ecosystems, photosynthesis. We've talked a little bit about invasive species, carrying capacity. Those are all some terms we've covered. I know a lot of you, because of different situations, maybe the attendance rate is a little less than what we'd like, so you miss a lot of stuff. So if you miss a day or two, some of these terms might be brand new. So we're gonna hit it now pretty good. Hopefully you'll have a chance to look at this and get the level of understanding. Now it's springtime. It's March. Today's March 30th. Now we're in the woods. The trees don't have their leaves out yet, obviously. There's a big open, what you'd call the canopy. The canopy is what's above you, and it's all open right now because the trees don't have leaves. So since it's open, all the stuff lower, at the lower levels, is trying to get rolling. Now what you see with these leaves, this is actually an invasive species. That's the bush honeysuckle. That's coming from Europe. It was brought over as a landscaping plant. It kind of got out of control. It does vegetative propagation. Now maybe you remember, maybe you don't on that term. But when we talk about vegetative propagation, we're talking about asexual reproduction, kind of like the banana project. So you have new plants that come up from the roots. It also produces a berry that some birds will eat and drop seeds everywhere. So where the tree is at, there's always trees popping up next to it. And then wherever the birds go and dropping seeds, you have new stuff popping up. So it's crazy. Now when we combine the idea of a invasive species with natural selection. Okay, normal plants evolve over time with the other plants and animals that are in that same ecosystem. So normal trees and bushes are the host plants for a variety of animals. Normally, you have a certain type of butterfly or caterpillar that seeks out a certain plant to lay its eggs on. And when those, the butterflies or the moths that'll lay their eggs on a certain plant that they call a host plant. The eggs hatch into little caterpillars. The caterpillars eat the leaves. And that converts energy from the producer level, the plant, to the consumer level, to the animal. Those caterpillars are kind of the baseline of the ecosystem. And they reproduce at a really high rate because everything eats them. So when you have native plant species, they are hosts for certain caterpillars. But these invasives haven't been around long enough for hosts to evolve on them. And I've got a project that I'll cue you in on at a later date where I'm trying to, oh, that's a bird. I thought that was an alarm. We're out in the middle of the woods. I'm like, why is there an alarm? Anyhow, one of the things you'll see with the plants, how they adapt over time, you see these right here, just starting to bloom. Little wildflower coming on. And where's another wildflower? This is getting ready to bloom. That's a wildflower. And there's a third type that's been blooming, and I'm not seeing it right now, but if I see it in a little bit, I'll let you know. But the wildflowers that are in the woods have to bloom now, because if they don't bloom now, then they're not going to have any sunlight, and they need sunlight to make a flower. There's the third type right there. I knew there was some around. There's the third one. So they've got to bloom now. They have to bloom now, take advantage of the sunlight they get, because it won't be long and all these trees will have leaves on them. Once all these trees have leaves on them, that'll be dark in here. It'll be shaded over and there won't be any flowers. When we talk about this invasive bush honeysuckle, we compare that to, this is the earliest of the native plants, and it's just coming out, so it's a little bit behind. But this, here's the bush honeysuckle right beside it. Look at that. Look at that. It's a great comparison. So you've got the bush honeysuckle here with all the leaves, and then you got this other one that doesn't quite have his leaves yet. So this bush honeysuckle is pulling nutrients out of the soil, and it's also gobbling up photosynthesis. So it's a tremendous competition. And then this native plant is going to end up probably with some kind of caterpillar eating on its leaves. And the deer love the native plants, and the rabbits love the native plants. So all the animals that have evolved in the forest, they come along and they nibble on these native plants, but they don't nibble on this invasive. They don't like it. They don't know what it is. It doesn't smell right. They ignore it. Other than the birds that eat those little berries and drop the seeds. So when you have a lot of an invasive like this, it impacts carrying capacity. So if you look at your normal landscape and you say, well, we have, and say every 10 square feet we have 5 bushes. And 100 years ago, it would all been bushes that some sort of wild animal would have wanted to eat. So you have a higher carrying capacity. Your woods can support more animals. If half of those bushes are bush honeysuckle, well, now you have half your carrying capacity is gone. Oh, look at this cool. This is going to be a really neat flower. Half your carrying capacity is going to be gone. There's another one. Half your carrying capacity is going to be gone because half of your plants are going to be the types of things that nothing wants to eat. And so that's a bummer. And so you're tying up nutrients. Oh, look at this one coming along. You are getting a big jump. Look at you. You're going to make a nice tree. Half of your nutrients that are available in this ecosystem are being tied up, whether the stuff that's generated through photosynthesis or the stuff that's pulled out of the soil is being tied up by these invasive plants that nothing wants to eat. Now, after they've been around for a couple hundred years, there might be stuff that starts to eat them. In the meantime, you have to wait for the plants to die, and then the decomposers like this moss. This moss is going to be living off of some organic matter that's underneath it. This mound right here, and it's hard to tell. There's just that little bit of mound right there. This is probably where there was a tree that fell over years ago. And then the old roots and some old tree bark that's laying there rotting is feeding this moss. And this moss is going to be, actually you can see right here, it's making its little flower. Because it has to go into the reproductive phase now while it's getting some sun. And let's see if we can find some other decomposers. Some of the decomposers are plants, and some of the decomposers are animals. And we've got these trees down here. And I thought maybe we'd see some bugs, but it's kind of cold. But you can see the little holes where certain types of woodpeckers, look where they've ripped this up. Oh, look, what was that? Good God Almighty, that was something. Something pupated there. It looks like a woodpecker got it. That's good for you, little woodpecker. There's a lot of woodpeckers around. And they dig through. You can see all these shavings here, and this is all where the woodpeckers would have been digging on this log, looking for bugs. You can see where they were tearing in right here. And they just peck around, peck around, peck around. But I don't know, it's kind of cold. So if there's bugs, the bugs are decomposers. And they're ripping this soil up. Now you can see where they've chewed through. And there's all these little holes and tunnels. And this tree is just pretty soft. There's a little bug. But that's what the woodpecker's looking for. So these bugs are in here. Look how soft that wood is. There's bugs that just chew and chew and chew. And then there's these mosses growing in the outside, decomposing. If you remember earlier in the year when we talked about the nutrient cycle, And we talked about how the decomposers break everything down and return these nutrients back to the soil. And then it gets utilized by the plants and the cycle continues. Oh, there's much more of these flowers. I can't wait to see what they turn into. Look at that. But this is just a walk in the woods, and I want you to experience it with me. And I want you to think about all the terms that we've covered in science class this year, all of the concepts and ideas, decomposers, producers, consumers. When we talked about the food chain, when we've talked about the food web, invasive species, native species, and then the idea of carrying capacity. When we talk about natural selection, you know, these plants all coexist together because they've kind of developed this harmony, this balance over time in the forest. You get this new one, this bush honeysuckle, like this dude right here, and it kind of throws that balance out of whack. But you can see all of the little trees that are popping up out of the roots, popping up from the roots of the big tree. The big tree would have gotten started by some little bird turd that had a seed in it, where the bird had eaten the berry. Now, I'm not going to give you an assignment on this, other than I want you to watch it, and I want you to have a question. I want you to have a comment. I want you to let me know. You can comment here in the Google Classroom. You can send me an email. Boy, as it's turning into spring, we're going to have flowers everywhere. Probably in about another 4 or 5 days. Actually, maybe even by the end of the week. Today is today Monday? No, I think today's Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. But later in the week, it's supposed to be plenty warm. We got all this green stuff popping up here on the forest floor. I'm not going to go too much further, because I know you all get tired of watching stuff. But, and I appreciate your comments that you've left me. I'm going to do a genetics lesson. I was going to do that tonight. But there were some tractors moving in the field by the cow pasture. And because of that, it was going to make a lot of background noise, and you wouldn't have been able to hear what I had to say. So I'll go back later to do that. This is a beech tree, and look, it's dying. The whole top's dead. You got some stuff growing there. But I'm seeing all this here. And I heard a bunch of woodpeckers earlier today. And then look at all this, all these shavings, all these pieces. Oh, look right there. I wonder if there's a family of woodpeckers in that big tree cavity. Could be. I bet there is. I bet they're going in and out of there. I ought to get my game trail camera and set it up down here. You know what? I think I will do that. I think I will do that. I had the game trail. I'll have to show you the video I made of some mice. My neighbors aren't home, so I snuck into their garage, and I set up some mouse traps. And it's the traps for trapping. Now, see, that's something I haven't seen. Look at the leaf on this. That's going to be a cool looking wildflower. We got to get back in here later this week. But I set up some traps for trapping live mice. And I set the game trail camera on it. So I got a video of these live mice getting caught in the trap. And it's a big box trap, so they're not hurt. But one of them's hurt now because I fed it to the snake a while ago. Look at this. Isn't that neat? And this is a fungus. It's like a type of mushroom. And it lives, look, there's a bunch right there. It's living on this dead, look at that. See, it's growing right out of those sticks. Look at that. I don't want to mess with it too much. I don't want to hurt it. But it's living. It's breaking those sticks down. And this is another fungus up here, different kind. But you see, it's all just a type of mushroom that's decomposing, that's chewing up this old tree. And because of the way an ecosystem evolves, somewhere in this woods is going to be an animal that's going to eat this sort of thing. It might be a mouse or a rat or a chipmunk or a squirrel. It might be a possum or a raccoon that's going to want to come along and nibble on that. And that's how ecosystems evolve together over time. right there. And so you bring in something new, whether it's the bush honeysuckle or it's the Chinese mantis, but you bring a new organism into an existing ecosystem, and it changes everything. And nature adjusts to the change, whether it's through natural selection, where it's just survival of the fittest, or through sexual selection, where, you know, something has to attract a mate or whatever. But somewhere along the way, things evolve and adjust. And one of the challenges with global warming and globalization and with an invasive species is how things can change faster over time than the animals can adapt or adjust to it. You find something like this and you just don't know what could be living under it. Nothing today, it's a little too cool. But when animals struggle to adapt and adjust, well, that's when we have extinction. And we don't want extinction. Well, I mean, I say we don't. Sometimes it's the right thing. Sometimes the species just can't adjust and it doesn't have a future. And sometimes the invasive is the future and we just don't realize it. But we'll talk about that more another time. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see other videos I've made, like the praying mantis one. I thought was pretty cool, and I did it right there at the school where we had these praying mantis egg clusters in the trees right out there in the parking lot. And so I thought that was interesting, but I don't think many of you have looked at it. Well, there's a heck of a little deer trail right through there. I'm always looking on these deer trails because they're dropping their antlers this time of year. In the spring, the antlers from last year are falling off as the new ones will start to grow. And that's kind of the difference between antlers and horns. Animals that have horns, the horns stay and just keep getting bigger year after year, whereas antlers grow one year and shed. Ooh, look at this deer trail. When you go along the deer trail, you find places like this where something's kind of taking a nibble. And you'll see all the new growth here, but there's no new growth out on this because the deer nibbled that on the way by. And you can see where they've nibbled the top out of this tree. But they're not nibbling on the bush honeysuckle because it's an invasive. If you went over to somebody's house for dinner and they were cooking a food that you've never eaten before, and it didn't look familiar, and it didn't sound familiar, and it didn't smell familiar, you might be like, nah, I'll pass. Unless your friend talked you into it. In the wildlife world, nobody's talking them into nothing. They either want it or they don't. They either eat it or they keep going. And so, usually they don't try something new. In the wildlife world, the animals do what their parents did. If this is a little path the guy makes that comes in here and cuts firewood. But if you have a baby deer, it's going to do whatever its mom does. It learns by watching. It mimics the adults around it. And we do that too, actually. You know, a lot of times we come to school and I'll say weird stuff and you'll kind of laugh at me. But it's because, you know, of how I was raised or who raised me or the other adults I've been around will influence my behavior, will influence my speech, influence my mannerisms and my habits. And sometimes we get judged or scrutinized for stuff that we've always thought of as normal because that's how we do things at home. And it's kind of unfortunate, it's sad or wrong, if you will, if a teacher gets on you for something that you do that is just fine to do in other places. We as teachers need to have a more consistent message. But I think that's true of everywhere in the world. This would be a vernal pool, and I've mentioned vernal pools on some of the other videos. Like I said, oh, look at that. I want to see if there's anything up here. I've mentioned vernal pools in some of the other videos where we have standing water. The term vernal, it's a Latin term. Right now we are in the vernal equinox, or what we like to call spring. Spring is the vernal season. When you're far from the equator, it's when the amount of sunlight is the same as the amount of darkness at a period of time when the amount of sunlight is increasing. There are a lot of happy birds out here. When we have a vernal pool, we have a pool of water that has water in it during the spring, vernal. And the water won't be here year-round. You can see the bubbles coming up through. That's methane gas. Can you see these bubbles? That's going to be methane gas being released out of the gunk that's down in the mud. You have all these decomposers working to decay all this carbon, and it's released as methane. Methane is what, 2 carbons and some hydrogen. Methane gas, it's a greenhouse gas. It's the same thing that's in the cow farts. It breaks down in the atmosphere after about 10 years. But in the meantime, it serves as a greenhouse gas. Look at the fungus on this log. Isn't that cool? Now that's going to be some old stuff. The bugs have been in it. But that's some newer, fresher stuff down there. That's cool. Anyway, these vernal pools get used by salamanders and frogs and stuff like that to make, oh, there were some bugs too, to make all their babies. They'll lay their eggs in this mud, in this water, with the hope that the babies mature before the water dries up. If you're a frog and you lay your eggs in here, that little tadpole is going to be eating all this muck, and then the worm, the tadpole is going to be eating all the muck, and hoping to find like a salamander, but it's going to eat all the muck and eventually become a frog on its own, where it can survive out of the water. Anyway, like I said, no real lesson today, just having a conversation and a walk in the woods. But I want you to be ready. I want you to watch it. I want you to have a comment. I know you all get tired of listening to me talk, but too bad. I do miss y'all. It's kind of weird. Get used to seeing you guys every day, and then all of a sudden there's nothing. And you know, I'm sure some of you are glad. Not everybody likes me. I'm fine with that. But I do miss seeing you in the hall. I miss giving each other a hard time in class, teasing each other. But I have been enjoying this break because I like being home. I like being out in the woods. I hope you all have something to do and can stay busy and find some joy in this time. But I've been talking long enough. So just let me know you've watched it, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great evening.